Both the radical left and China begin to lose their grips on power, and Democrats began the new year with a bold new COVID strategy, parroting what conservatives have been saying all along. Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee with The Breakdown. I hope you had a safe, happy, and healthy Christmas and New Year, and now welcome back to the first Tuesday of 2022 with only 51 more to go. I know that's a depressing thought, and it's hard to go back to work after a nice holiday break, but a column from Kurt Schlichter at townhall.com is sure to cheer you up. The title of the article is "The Tide is Turning in Freedom's Favor," and his premise is that 2021 might go down in history as the year that the left's attempts to take over and transform America peaked, and that 2022 will be the year that Americans rise up and stop it. The left have pushed too far with their disastrous economic, crime, and foreign policies, with inflation and empty store shelves and prosecuting parents for not wanting racist, anti-American garbage taught to their kids, and men breaking women's records from college swimming to Jeopardy. As he warns, there are still some hard battles to be fought, and they will fight dirty. We could lose if we don't fight hard and smart. But the tides of history have started to turn against the leftist radicals. And let's be honest, our opponents, well, they're not the brightest bulbs in the chandelier. Here's an excerpt from Schlichter that I just can't resist quoting. It's about the House leftist academic policies and politicians and how they're causing all the chaos. He said, and I quote, "We know that they did not get where they are at the heads of our institutions because they earned it. They didn't build them. They were handed the keys because they went and got the garbage credentials at their universities and because they politicked up the ladder. These are unaccomplished people. We're not fighting Lex Luthor or some criminal genius. We are fighting the robbers in Home Alone." I love that analogy. Listen, as someone who's been in politics for nearly 30 years, I can tell you firsthand that statement is frighteningly accurate. In other hopeful signs for 2022, while China has been flexing its muscles economically and militarily, the Wall Street Journal reports that China's economy is facing some serious problems, and the communist government's crackdown on freedom and creative entrepreneurs and its imposition of more government control is likely going to make things worse, not better. This may or may not mean that Joe Biden's personal economy is in trouble as well. The Wall Street Journal points out that the U.S. and its allies could make China's economic woes even worse, and they could rein in their expansionism through vigorous enforcement of trade laws, limiting Chinese access to technology, and financing from the West, and imposing sanctions against China's brutal human rights abuses. But until we have a president who's actually willing to do any of that, we'll just have to hope that the communist stellar record of ruining everything they touch will keep undermining China for us. In the meantime, as the Omicron variant quickly spread in the last few weeks, COVID case numbers spiked significantly over the weekend, hitting records in places like New York and Florida, fortunately, without a similar surge in deaths. Also, a number of fully vaxxed and boosted political figures in D.C., from Representative Ayanna Pressley to Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who is overseeing the discharge of military members who refused to get vaccinated, they tested positive for COVID. Gee, I thought this was a pandemic of the unvaccinated. The public isn't really warm to the claim that the solution to stopping the Omicron wave is more lockdowns, more vaccine mandates, and mask mandates, considering that those were already in force in New York City, and it's got the worst outbreak in the entire United States. Unfortunately, the pandemic response was long ago taken over by politics instead of science. So instead of changing policies based on what we've learned over the past 2 years, some people are still stuck on repeating the same things that don't work and still expecting a different result, which real scientist Albert Einstein defined as insanity. But if we're lucky, maybe the fact that 2022 is an election year that's looking pretty grim for Democrats may be a good thing in one way. It may be forcing the media to abandon their COVID panic stoking, if for no other reason so that voters who are fed up with the Democrats' iron-fisted and counterproductive COVID policies, who are ready to kick them out of office.
Those people who are vaccinated, particularly those who are boosted, the personal risk of being exposed to this went from something that we hadn't really dealt with specifically like this before in our lifetimes. We hadn't quite had an illness this infectious and this possible to cause serious illness, to something that does look more like the flu. And the flu, of course, can still be dangerous, kills tens of thousands of Americans every year, but we don't orient our lives around the flu.
Even Dr. Fauci is suddenly admitting things that would have gotten anyone banned from Twitter for promoting misinformation a few months ago.
Is that if you look at the children who are hospitalized, many of them are hospitalized with COVID as opposed to because of COVID. And what we mean by that, if a child goes in the hospital, they automatically get tested for COVID, and they get counted as a COVID hospitalized individual, when in fact they may go in for a broken leg or appendicitis or something like that.
It's sure nice of Chris Hayes and Anthony Fauci to join us over here on the side of reason. These are things that have been verifiably true for all or most of 2021. And those of us who weren't interested in retaining power, well, we were calling this weeks ago when Omicron popped up and all the data from South Africa pointed to this new variant potentially being the end of the pandemic if nothing else was. But it's not as if the news media, or Fauci for that matter, are suddenly willing to pay attention to science and to start thinking rationally instead of inciting panic. It's just that, well, they found an even bigger epidemic to panic over. The possibility that if they don't knock off the hysteria, a wave of Republicans is about to envelop Washington. Well, thanks for watching, and if you want to keep up with the news of the week, be sure to click the subscribe button below and the notification bell next to it. And please leave a like and a share about this video with the people that you like the least. That's right, make sure they watch it. Tune in this Friday for another live stream. And of course, you can get more of my commentary and news analysis by signing up for my newsletter, going to MikeHuckabee.com. It's absolutely free. I think I mentioned that, but if not, it's free. That's going to do it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.